Welcome back to the Nerdy Grail. In today's video, we will be reviewing a movie so terrifying that it will send chills up your spine. A movie that has been anticipated for a long time. He has been waiting in the darkness, and now he is finally here. He has finally arrived, and we will be reviewing the movie Nosferatu. Hey, so sorry about that, guys. I just thought that would be a funny little way to open one of my videos because I want to experiment and try something new with the channel. But yes, in today's video, we are going to be reviewing the movie Nosferatu, which came out technically last year in 2024 for like the US on December 25th. But internationally and for me, this is actually a 2025 movie because me and my fiance, we went to the cinema yesterday on January 1st, 2025, and we watched it. So yeah, we're starting off our brand new year with a brand new movie, something that I'll immediately have to obviously add to my list of movies that I saw in 2025. And day one, wow, what a day to start. But it was a very, very good movie. So how is this going to work? Well, a bit like previous reviews. And also, as you can see behind, actually, I've got a variety of different vampire movies behind. So we've got Morbius again, but we've got The Lost Boys, another fantastic movie. We got Abigail, which I did a review on Abigail, actually. So if you haven't checked out my review on Abigail, please check it out. It's another fantastic movie. I didn't mean for two vampire movies to come out in close proximity to each other on my channel, but that's just the way it went. And then we got Renfield as well, which also stars Nicholas Hoult, who is also in this movie as well. Another fantastic movie, all about Dracula and Dracula's assistant. So it's really, really good. All four of those movies are unique. Three of them are good. One of them is so bad it's good. You can probably guess which one. But anyway, Nosferatu. Yeah, it was a fantastic movie. I actually really did enjoy it, to be fair, but I'll get into that more in this review. So how is this review going to work? Well, firstly, I'm going to talk about the background of the movie. So just give you a little bit about the director, about the producers, and about what the movie's based on. Then we're going to have a little talk about the cast, just to give you some of my thoughts on how the characters are in the movie, stroke a little bit on the plot. And then finally, we're going to do like final thoughts, positives and negatives as well. So let's waste no more time, jump straight into this review on Nosferatu, starting with some of the background information about the movie. So jumping straight into the background about the movie Nosferatu. Well, this was directed by Robert Eggers and had numerous producers, one of which being Robert Eggers. But also, and I had to write them down, we've also got John Graham, we've got Jeff Robinoff, and we've got both Chris and Eleanor Columbus. So we've got loads of people producing this film, and you can tell there's lots of different creativity in this movie. It is really, really good. It keeps you on edge from start to finish. There wasn't a single moment in this movie where you can truly feel comfortable, and it lets you know that you're not supposed to be comfortable in this movie. And that's sort of what you want from this style of movie. But I'm not going to go too much into that. I'm going to do that in more in my final thoughts. But I had to do a bit of research. It does tell you actually in the credits towards the end what this movie is based on. But this movie, if you weren't aware, is based on Nosferatu, a symphony of horror by Henrik Galeen, who did a silent movie back in 1922. So that's one of the things that this movie is actually based on. And that was said to be like one of the first of the classic horrors and deemed to be like one of the best. But it's also then based on Bram Stoker's Dracula, you know, by the Irish novelist. Famous person, lots of people know about Bram Stoker and Dracula as well. So, and it was kind of obvious. If you're doing a film about Nosferatu, it's kind of obvious where you get your inspiration from. So that's really, really good. The music was done by, and if I pronounce anyone's name wrong, I really apologise. Robin Carolan did the music, and to be fair, there wasn't actually an awful lot of music in this movie, which to be fair is a good thing, because, and I showed my fiance Midsummer, and she said a similar thing, is that the lack of music actually adds to the tension and adds to the eeriness of the movie. So when they did do music in Nosferatu, it really hit and you could tell, and it was there for the dramatic effect and it worked. but the lack of music at times really also impacted that eeriness, and I thought that was really good. The cinematography in this movie was also brilliant. Gorgeous shots everywhere galore. It was a very dark movie to start with, and it's dark for the whole movie, but I mean dark as in like visually dark as well. Like there's not a lot you could see. Like obviously, Bill Skarsgård's character of Count Orlok is actually just covered up in shadow for most of the first act and a bit of the second act, and you just see like little jump scares of his face. He's trying to hide his identity. Really creepy. The budget of this movie was roughly estimated to be about $50 million. And it has a runtime of approximately 132 minutes. So it's roughly 2 hours 10 to 2 hours 15 minutes. And in terms of pace, how does it feel? I will admit it does drag a little bit, does drag a tiny bit in the middle, for me anyway. But I think overall, that 2 hours and 15 minutes does go by decently well. But that's all I'm going to delve into the background, because I really want to get in and talk about some of these characters, because there's some really famous faces in this film who do fantastic jobs in their roles. So let's jump straight into the cast and a little bit of the plot of Nosferatu. Okay, so this is like the core part that I really want to talk about. Talking about predominantly the cast, but also I'm going to be delving into little bits of the plots when I talk about the cast. So, I mean, let's just start off with like your core characters. So, obviously, we've got Bill Skarsgård as Count Orlok Nosferatu himself. And if you've seen him as Pennywise the Clown in It, you know that he has that creepy, eerie presence, and that is here tenfold. He does a fantastic job. Visually, he looks terrifying, both when he's just hidden in the shadows, because quite a lot of the time, before you get to see him fully in physical form, he's just like a shadow on the wall that's like creeping into view. Usually they start with his hand coming over, like there's shots of his hand coming over the city towards the person that he's stalking, which we'll get onto in a minute. And then he'll be like eerily going through the house, just his shadow. And then his shadow will like open the doors, and then he will manifest physically. He's very, very creepy and eerie, paled face, wearing a dark cloak, his sharp teeth, long fingernails. He has that eerie presence. An amazing mustache, I might add, though. I said that a couple of times during the film. Glorious mustache he has on him. But yeah, he's very, very, very creepy. And the way he speaks as well. He has the way of coming across very calm, but you can tell he's in control. He has the power, and you can't do anything to stop him. He's fantastic, and he steals the show in many ways. Would I say he's my favourite character? Probably not, but if it wasn't for him, I think this would be very, very different. So the way he acts is brilliant. And like I said, his whole plot, shall we say, so delving into a little bit of the plot, is obviously he's stalking this girl who's played by Lily Rose Depp, but I'll get into her in a minute, called Ellen. He sort of like cursed her from a younger age, and she's sort of like invading her dreams. He's saying that he will return. She pledged her allegiance to him, and so she needs to re-pledge that. So he's sort of like luring in people to try and get close to her, so that he can be with her again. And yeah, it's very, very creepy. Very, very creepy. And the way he gets killed off at the end, ooh, you can hear the screams as well. But yeah, so that's Count Orlok, played by Bill Skarsgård. He does a fantastic job. Another one of your then core protagonists of the film is Thomas Hutter, played by the brilliant Nicholas Hoult. I love Nicholas Hoult in anything he does. Renfield, for example, he's almost playing that character again, more or less, because Renfield was the assistant to Nicolas Cage's Dracula in Renfield, and he did a brilliant job in that, and he does a fantastic job here as well, where he's sort of, at the start, he kind of sort of becomes like the servant of Count Orlok, because he's married to Ellen now, and he has to travel to Transylvania to Count Orlok's castle, because Count Orlok is interested in buying a property nearby, funnily enough, where they live. You could call him sort of like a real estate agent to a degree. But he travels up there and ends up getting trapped up in the castle for a couple of days, being tormented by Count Orlok, who's like feeding on him every night because he's waking up with like these bite marks on him. And Thomas discovers that he intends on returning back to where he lives to be with Ellen again, so he has to race home to warn her. And he does a fantastic job. He's always playing such a nice character. You always feel for Nicholas Hoult in any film that he's in. He's brilliant. So it's going to be really interesting because he's actually going to be playing Lex Luthor in the new Superman movie coming out this year. So it'd be interesting to see him play a proper villain. But most of the films I've seen him in, he's usually the good guy. And he's usually got that calming presence, that gentle presence. But you can tell that he has like a darker side in this movie, especially when he's trying to defend his wife as well. So it's really good. So Nicholas Hoult does a fantastic job. Then we've got, like I said, I mentioned her a couple of times now, we've got the main protagonist, female lead of Ellen Hutter, who's played by Lily Rose Depp. And she does a pretty good job. There's some really creepy scenes with her because obviously she's been cursed and she suffers Count Orlok during her dream, so she gets like possessed and she starts like having seizures, and it's proper like Exorcist level. There's a couple of scenes where like she's proper shaking and her eyes go into the back of her head and her voice changes, her demeanor. She can play that role really well. It's brilliant. And the way she sacrifices herself at the end so that all the rest of her friends can be free, the town can be free, and that Thomas can live is really good. She does a fantastic job. I really liked her character. But yeah, you can really feel for her. There's one scene in particular where she is... I can't tell if she's possessed by Count Orlok at that moment, or whether she's just saying the horrible things so that Thomas will leave and she can protect him. But she's like basically telling Thomas that Count Orlok was always better than him and that he doesn't actually care about her. And then they proceed to have sex, and she says, show him that we're better than him. She like grovels at Thomas's feet, and then it's really weird. It's a really weird scene, and she flips between like different personalities so well. It's like unbelievable. So she does a really good job. We then got Aaron Taylor-Johnson. Yes, good old Craven the Hunter himself. He plays a character called Frederick Harding, who's like Thomas's best friend, friends towards their family. And he's got a wife as well, played by Emma Corrin, who plays a character called Anna. I'll talk about these two together. They're interesting characters, don't get me wrong, but their characters look after Lily Rose Depp's character of Ellen while Thomas goes off to see Count Orlok, because apparently it's like a 6-week journey. They look after her to try and keep her comfortable and reassure her that everything's going to be okay. But obviously weird stuff starts happening when Ellen has her fits and seizures and bad dreams and nightmares about Count Orlok. And Count Orlok does then like sort of curse them as well, because towards the end of the movie, when he eventually does come to the town that Ellen and Thomas are from, he gives Ellen a 3-night warning that if you don't come to me and basically give me your allegiance again of your own free will, I'm going to start hurting those close to you. And it begins with them by cursing Anna, who ends up dying, and then her husband Frederick takes his own life because he's lost his wife and his daughters as well. So it's really dark, but fantastic. They are interesting characters, but they are probably the weakest of the core characters, if I'm being perfectly honest. Then you've got Willem Dafoe. Willem Dafoe as, and I need to get this right, Professor Albin Eberhard von Franz. Yeah, very long title. So he's a professor character, and he is sort of an expert on like the supernatural, on the weird and wonderful things to a degree. He knows a lot, but also nothing at the same time, because there's lots of times where he knows the rules about vampires and stuff, but when it comes to Nosferatu, he's a bit more unfamiliar. you can tell that he's enjoying this. He's enjoying watching it all. But he's a crazy character. He's a lot of fun. But he gets to the bottom of things really, really quickly. The moment he enters the screen, he's able to deduce what's wrong with Ellen and work out that it's Nosferatu. He's coming to the town for something, and we need to stop him. So he is. You can tell he's got that intelligence there. So it's really, really interesting. And I love Willem Dafoe as an actor. I think he's brilliant. So I would go to see the film just for Willem Dafoe alone. But there is another character who actually Willem Dafoe was the teacher of this guy. He was a student. I need to try and pronounce his name correctly. Ralph Ineson, who plays Dr. Wilhelm Severs or Severs. I probably pronounced that wrong, but yeah. And he's a really interesting character as well, who helps the core cast to try and work out what's going on in this movie. But yeah, that's sort of your core cast of characters. And like I said, plot in a nutshell is Ellen gets possessed from a young age by Nosferatu. She gets cursed by him. Time skip to Thomas and Ellen, who are now together. Thomas has to then travel to Count Orlok's castle because he wants to buy a home in order to get back to Ellen, who's suffering bad dreams ever since that night. And then Thomas is in the castle. He signs the waiver, allowing Count Orlok to then leave and come to the town to basically torment Ellen, and it's just like a race against time to get back, and then you've got your final confrontation then between them all. It is an interesting movie. I did really enjoy it. But speaking of which, let me pause this, and we are going to talk about the positives, negatives in a nutshell, and I'm going to give you my final thoughts about Nosferatu. Okay, so I'm not going to linger too much on this, but this is sort of my final thoughts about Nosferatu, the movie. So let's talk about the positives in my final thoughts. I would say overall it was a fun movie. I did really enjoy it. I would say it was more of a positive movie than a negative movie. So a good start to 2025 for me. I would say some of the main positives are the atmosphere. It was dripping with atmosphere. It was really creepy. It had me on edge from start to finish. It made me feel really uncomfortable to watch at times, but in a surprisingly good way. It was really weird to describe. But yeah, you never felt safe. And I think that's sort of the point, because Ellen never feels safe in that movie, and neither does Thomas by the end. So that's sort of a good thing. You're sort of feeling what the characters are feeling, so you feel like you can connect to them and you want them to, to survive. So I think that was brilliant. I think the music, when they used it, was intense, and it got really loud at times, like proper loud. It almost hurt my ears. But that piercing, like, drum rolls and stuff. Oh, it was brilliant. The cinematography, some of the shots were amazing. Like when Thomas first arrives at Count Orlok's castle, and he's in a carriage being driven by horses, and you've got these wild dogs chasing from behind, and you can see it in the distance. It looks beautiful. There's a scene also with Thomas walking through this abandoned forest, and the path splits into four, and you just see the carriage slowly appear out of nowhere. It's eerie. I love that eeriness. And like I said, another positive, the cast are all brilliant. I'd say debatably my favourite characters are Nicholas Holt's Thomas Hutter and Willem Dafoe's Professor. They are my favourite characters in the film. They are brilliant. But Bill Skarsgård, Lily Rose Depp, they all do a fantastic job. So hats off to the cast for really selling this movie. Not for me, big names don't always mean it's going to be a good movie. I'm of that belief. But here, the big names do help, and the big names do play a role. So I think, yeah, the cast are amazing, and it was the perfect choice, especially for characters like Count Orlok. Bill Skarsgård, I mean, come on, get Pennywise the Clown in on that. That is amazing. So yeah, the cast is another positive. And then in terms of like negatives, I would say probably the only real negative for me is probably, the pacing did feel a bit off at times, because like, when he goes to Count Orlok's castle and then is in Count Orlok's castle, it's brilliant, and I was thoroughly engaged. But when he escapes Count Orlok's castle, that little gap between him escaping Count Orlok's castle and him returning home, it sort of dragged a little bit. And I did find myself checking my watch once or twice. So, but that's probably about it, really. I can't really criticise this movie too much, especially since I've got nothing to compare it to this year. So I'm going to give it the benefit of the doubt, and I really, really did enjoy this movie. I would definitely watch again. I've already got my pre-order in for the Steelbook and Blu-ray, so when that comes out, I will do an unboxing of it. But yeah, that is going to be my review on Nosferatu. I hope you did enjoy this video. Please like it by giving it a thumbs up. Comment down below what are your thoughts on this movie. Did you enjoy it? And subscribe if you are new, because like I said, plenty of new content coming on this channel in 2025. But this is Nerdy Grail signing off for now. I hope you have an amazing day, and I will see you all next time. Bye for now, everyone.